Discipline is not loud. It does not shout like motivation does. It whispers, repeats, and shows up every single day even when no one is watching. In a quiet village surrounded by green rice fields and a slow-moving river, there lived a young boy named Arif. The village was simple. Mornings began with the sound of roosters, the smell of wet soil, and the distant echo of farmers calling to their oxen. Life moved slowly there, but it was never easy. Arif was 17 years old. He was not the strongest boy in the village, nor the smartest. He was average in school, average in sports, and often invisible in a crowd. But inside him burned a quiet desire to change his family's future. His father was a farmer who worked from sunrise to sunset. His hands were rough, his back bent from years of labor. Arif had seen him come home exhausted, yet still smile at the family during dinner. His mother stitched clothes for neighbors to earn a little extra money. They never complained, but Arif could see the tiredness in their eyes. One evening, as Arif sat by the river watching the sunset, he made a decision. He would study hard and pass the government scholarship exam held in the nearby town. Winning that scholarship meant free education in the city. It meant opportunity, it meant hope. The problem was that Arif had never been a top student. The exam was known to be difficult. Only a handful of students from many villages passed each year. His friends laughed when he mentioned it. "You? That exam?" one of them said. "It's for genius students." For a moment, Arif felt a wave of doubt. He did not feel like a genius. He did not feel special. That night, he waited for motivation to strike him like lightning, to feel powerful, inspired, unstoppable. But nothing happened. The next morning, instead of waiting for a grand feeling, Arif woke up before sunrise. He washed his face, lit a small kerosene lamp, and opened his old textbooks. He decided he would study 2 hours every morning before helping his father in the fields. The first few days were hard. His eyes felt heavy. His mind wandered. Sometimes he stared at the same page for 10 minutes without understanding a single word. He wanted to sleep. He wanted to quit. But he made a simple rule. No matter how he felt, he would sit with his books at the same time every day. That was his first act of discipline. Weeks passed. While his friends played football in the afternoons, Arif divided his time carefully. 2 hours in the morning, 1 hour at night. Even on days when he felt tired from farm work, he forced himself to read at least a few pages. There were days when he felt motivated. On those days, he studied extra and felt proud. But there were many days when he felt nothing at all, no excitement, no energy. On those days, discipline carried him. One afternoon, a storm hit the village. The wind tore through the fields, and heavy rain flooded the narrow paths. That night, the electricity went out. The entire village was in darkness. Arif sat inside his small room, listening to the rain hit the tin roof. He could have used the storm as an excuse. "It's too dark," he thought. "I'll study tomorrow." Instead, he lit his small kerosene lamp again. The flame flickered in the wind, casting dancing shadows on the wall. He did not have a dramatic answer. He simply said, "Because I said I would." That was the truth. Not because he felt inspired, not because he felt confident, but because he had made a promise to himself. Months went by. Slowly, something began to change. The boy who once struggled to understand basic math problems could now solve complex equations. The chapters that once seemed impossible became familiar. His teachers started noticing. "Arif," one teacher said, "you've improved a lot." Arif smiled shyly. He knew the secret. It was not talent, it was repetition. As the exam date approached, his friends grew nervous. Some of them began studying intensely just weeks before the test. They stayed up late trying to absorb everything at once. Arif felt nervous too. He was human. But he did not panic. He simply continued his routine. Wake up early, study, help in the fields, study again at night. The night before the exam, he could not sleep easily. Doubts whispered in his mind. What if you fail? What if everyone was right? He remembered the countless mornings he had woken up in darkness, the stormy nights, the days he studied when he felt empty. He realized something powerful. Even if he failed, he had already changed. He was no longer the same undisciplined boy. The next morning, Arif traveled to the town with his father. It was his first time seeing such a large school building. Hundreds of students gathered outside, many wearing neat uniforms and carrying new books. Arif looked at his simple clothes and worn-out bag. For a brief second, insecurity returned. His father placed a rough hand on his shoulder. Just do your best, he said. Inside the exam hall, the questions were tough. Harder than Arif expected. Some students looked stressed. Some even stopped writing halfway. Arif felt fear rise in his chest. But discipline had trained his mind. Instead of panicking, he took a deep breath and started solving one question at a time. Slowly. Carefully. The way he had practiced for months. 3 hours later, the exam ended. The waiting period was the hardest part. Results would be announced after 1 month. Life in the village returned to normal. Arif continued helping in the fields. But he did not stop studying. Discipline had become part of him now. Finally, the results day arrived. The village school posted the list on a wooden board. A crowd gathered. Students pushed and stretched to see their names. Arif stood at the back, heart pounding. He was almost afraid to look. Then he heard someone shout, "Arif, your name is here." For a moment, the world went silent. He walked forward slowly, hardly believing it. And there it was, his name among the selected students. His mother cried when she heard the news. His father stood quietly, eyes shining with pride. The same friends who once laughed at him now looked at him with respect. But the most important change was invisible. Arif understood that success did not come from waiting for the perfect mood. It did not come from bursts of excitement. It came from showing up every day, especially when he did not feel like it. Years later, when Arif had completed his education and returned to help develop his village school, younger students often asked him, "How did you do it? Were you always smart?" He would smile and shake his head. "No," he would say, "I just didn't skip the days I didn't feel like working, and that was the truth." Motivation is powerful, but it is temporary. It fades with mood, weather, and circumstances. Discipline, however, is a decision repeated daily. It is choosing your future over your feelings. Like Arif, you may not feel extraordinary today. But if you commit to small, consistent actions, your life will transform in ways you cannot imagine. Show up, even on the hard days. Especially on the hard days.